appropriate here. Now that's just that's just what it is. Yeah, if you want to read. Yeah. No, that's not for. Let me put those in my pocket. Oh, that's somebody's stuff. Okay. Hey, at least I didn't punch the copier and make it not work like on Christmas Eve or whatever happened. Yeah, that was like Andre fixed it on Christmas Day. Yes. Yeah, and tell me your name. Carla, welcome. If you're comfortable, there's some name tags by the door. If not, we're just welcome you here and just make yourself at home. Oh, perfect, perfect. Excellent, excellent. Mhm. Yeah, that's a good. That's. I don't usually rob banks, but I need to book it. Oh, what pitcher of water? Decaf. Well, you have to be safe if you're gonna do fire. Safe-ish. Uh, we're gonna. That's nice. I tried to move. I've made a dumb decision. Well, I make lots of them. We tried to trade sides of the bed, and it's just. I keep coming up across the top to try to get back to my side, because he kept throwing all his crap in my closet. Hi, how are you? Good morning. Orders of service and supplies for service are on that table. I'm Reverend Mandy, and welcome. Make yourselves at home. This is a little bit of an informal day just because we don't have a lot of staff. It's New Year's Eve, or New Year's Day. And, oh, thank you, Gray Winds. Yay, we found pens. Somebody tried to pick one of these up, so I took them. There's too many chairs. Uh, ah, yes, yes. Keeping us on our toes. It's better than the one I did on Christmas Eve. Okay. I need a music stand, and these plants need watered. Even I can see that. I would wait till 11, or not. Yeah, let's just wait a couple more minutes. That's not right either. That's a minute or two fast. Oh, okay. Okay. Gray, do you want to do one more favor? Will you plug in the Christmas tree? Thank you. Can you give me a glass of water? Everyone, and good morning. Okay, it's New Year's Day. We're going to have to try again. Good morning. Good morning, both here and at home. We're so glad you're joining us today on New Year's. This is the Unitarian Universalist Church of Chattanooga. I am the Reverend Mandy Goheen. My pronouns are she and her. And it is my honor to welcome you this morning into a time of reflection, a time of ritual, and a time of, what's interesting, it's a date on the calendar. A time of a date that makes us think about what's going on around us and how we might use this calendar, false change, to set things new, to begin again. I've been talking about the Reverend Dr. Howard Thurman a lot, and I will talk about him again today, but our opening words are by him. In the quietness of this place, surrounded by the all-pervading presence of the holy, my heart whispers, keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve, that in good times or in tempests, I may not forget that to which my life is committed. Keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. In Unitarian Universalist congregations everywhere, we light a chalice to mark the beginning of our time together. I'm inviting Andy Foskey, our board president, up to light our chalice, and I invite you to follow along in the words of in the order of service, which is upside down and sideways. It's okay. In the light of truth, in the warmth of love, we gather to seek, to sustain, and to share. And find a lighter. It is a new year of technical difficulties, as always, both in person and abroad. I do want to draw your attention before our opening song to the four things you will need today. If you're at home, open up your order of service. I know you got a link in the email. But you also, if you've come in, you'll need a piece of origami paper, this tiny piece of paper, which is flash paper that will catch on fire, I promise later, not right now. They're on the round table, and a pen. And the order of service, even though it's upside down and backwards, is particularly important today. So just anytime you want to get those things, please do. The song seems a little obvious but important. Though I may speak with bravest fire, it is a fire communion that we'll be doing later. And so I invite you all to rise in body and or spirit, both here and at home, for our opening song, number 34 in the gray hymnal, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. And one of the things about the new year is I've changed the order of service a little bit. And this is a multi-generational service. So anyone older than in the nursery is welcome to stay, although it seems like they stayed home and slept mostly. And thank you, Gray, for being here. I'd like to invite Camille up, our Director of Religious Education, to share a story with us that I think, I did it out of order. See, I said I was going to do it out of order, and I did it out of order. We're going to do the story now, and then we'll do the offertory after. Perfect. Thank you. Change the order on myself. That was a surprise for me, too.
Yeah. Hello?
Did the switch go up?
Hello? Hello?
That little switch on the very bottom, press it up and hold it for about 3 seconds.
Okay.
Did it turn green?
Yeah. It's green.
It was great. I think we can.
Okay. I'll just use my voice.
And we can turn on the choir mic.
It turned on? Hallelujah. All right, well, good morning. I am going to read a story called Brave Irene, and it's about a little girl who has a lot of determination, and she is determined to help her mother deliver this beautiful dress in the snow. And so we're going to hear her story of determination and perseverance. So this story is called Brave Irene by William Steig. Mrs. Bobbin, the dressmaker, was tired and had a bad headache, but she still managed to sew the last stitches in the gown she was making. "It's the most beautiful dress in the whole world," said her daughter, Irene. "The Duchess will love it." "It is nice," her mother admitted, "but Dumpling, it's for tonight's ball, and I don't have the strength to bring it. I feel sick." "Poor Mama," said Irene. "I can get it there." "No, Cupcake, I can't let you," said Mrs. Bobbin. "Such a huge package, and it's such a long way to the palace. Besides, it's starting to snow." "But I love snow," Irene insisted. She coaxed her mother into bed, covered her with 2 quilts, and added a blanket for her feet. Then she fixed her some tea with lemon and honey and put more wood in the stove. With great care, Irene took the splendid gown down from the dummy and packed it in a big box with plenty of tissue paper. She kissed her mother's hot forehead 6 times, and then she slipped out the door. It was really cold outside, very cold. The wind whirled the falling snowflakes about this way, that way, and into Irene's squinting face. She set out on the uphill path to Farmer Bennett's sheep pasture. By the time she got there, the snow was up to her ankles, and the wind was worse. It hurried her along and made her stumble. Irene was upset with this. She said, "Easy does it," to the wind. But, of course, the wind kept pushing her. By the middle of the pasture, the flakes were falling thicker. She had to hurry on. This was an important errand. When she reached the apple road, the wind decided to put on a show. It ripped branches from trees and flung them about, swept up and scattered the fallen snow, got in front of Irene to keep her from moving ahead. Irene turned around and pressed on backwards. "Go home," the wind squalled. "Irene, go home." "I will do no such thing," she snapped. "No such thing, you wicked wind." "Go home," the wind yodeled. "Go home," it shrieked, "or else." For a second, Irene wondered if she shouldn't heed the wind's warning. But no, the gown had to get to the Duchess. The wind wrestled her for the package, walloped it, twisted it, took it, and snatched it. Irene wouldn't yield. "It's my mother's work," she screamed. Then, oh, whoa, the box was wrenched from her mittened grasp and sent bumbling along in the snow. Irene went after it. She pounced and took hold, but the gown had flounced out and went waltzing over the powdered snow. Irene clung to the empty box and watched the beautiful gown disappear. How could anything so wrong be allowed to happen? Tears froze on her lashes. She decided that she would carry on and tell the Duchess in person what had happened. Suddenly, Irene stepped in a hole and fell over with a twisted ankle. She blamed it on the wind. "Keep quiet," she scolded. "You've done enough damage already. You spoiled everything, everything." The wind just swallowed up her words. She sat down. She was hurt. She was tired. She didn't think she could go on, but she knew she had to. This was important. So she plowed on. She had to keep going. But, oh no, she thinks that she's maybe lost. She doesn't quite know where she is. But then she sees a soft glow coming from somewhere below her. She waded towards this glow and soon was gazing down a long slope at a brightly lit mansion. It had to be the palace. Irene pushed forward with all her strength. She had to keep going. So she decided that to get down the hill, she would lay down the box and climb aboard. It pressed into the snow and stuck, so she tried again, and this time, instead of climbing on, she leaped. The box shot forward like a sled. The wind raced after Irene, but couldn't keep up. In a moment, she would be with people again, inside where it was warm. The sled slowed and jerked to a stop on paving stones. The time had come to break the bad news to the Duchess. With the empty box clasped to her chest, Irene strode nervously towards the palace. But then she looked up and she saw the beautiful ball gown on a tree. The wind was holding it there. "Mama," Irene shouted, "Mama, I found it." So she put it back in the box and she went and knocked on the door to the big palace. She was welcomed by cheering servants and a delirious duchess. They couldn't believe she had come over the mountain in such a storm, all by herself. She had to tell the whole story, every detail, and she did. Then she asked to be taken right back to her sick mother, but it was out of the question, they said. The road that ran around the mountain wouldn't be cleared till morning. "Don't fret, child," said the Duchess. "Your mother is surely sleeping now. We'll get you there first thing in the morning." Early the next morning, when snow had long since ceased falling, Mrs. Bobbin woke up from a good night's sleep feeling much improved. She hurried about and got a fire going in the cold stove, and then she went to look in on Irene. But Irene's bed was empty. She ran to the window and gazed at the white landscape. No one was out there. Snow powder fell from the branch of a tree. "Where is my child?" Miss Bobbin cried. She whipped on her coat to go out and find her. When she pulled the door open, a wall of drift faced her, but peering over it, she could see a horse-drawn sleigh hastening up the path, and seated on the sleigh between two large footmen was Irene herself, asleep but smiling. Would you like to hear the rest? Well, there was a bearded doctor in the back of the sleigh, and the Duchess had sent Irene's mother a ginger cake with white icing, some oranges and a pineapple, and spiced candy of many flavors, along with a note saying how much she cherished her gown, and what a brave and loving person Irene was, which, of course, Miss Bobbin knew better than the Duchess. Thank you for listening to the story.
So I have changed the order of service, which I forgot, to have the offertory come before the story for all ages. And I know that's a big shift for us, and you might be wondering why. We're getting ready to start celebrating 30 Days of Love. It'll start on Martin Luther King Jr. Sunday, and I want to make sure that we have an opportunity for everyone in our church community, no matter what their age, to participate in the offertory time at church. This is a time when we can give our treasure. It's a time where if we're visitors, you're welcome to let the offering plate pass by. But we're going to start doing some food collection and some different social justice activities and little missions during that month. And I want to make sure that no matter who you are, you have an opportunity to share the offering of your experience and the offering of your work with this wonderful community. And so today, the offering will be gratefully received for the work of this church and for the people who I'm grateful for. I want to give a shout out to anyone who was involved in the solstice service. Can you please stand up hold your hand up or be less? Yeah. That was amazing. We had the best service, and it was almost like the prequel to today. It was the same stuff, burning things and getting ready for the change of the year, the actual date that the year changes, the sun and all that science stuff. But Anyway, we just really appreciate your talent and your treasure, and it was our 15th celebration of the Labyrinth on the solstice. So let's give them a big round of applause as an offering first. And now your treasures will be gratefully received. And the offerings of this church go to the work of this church, to our mission. So I'd like to invite you to join me in the offertory response found in your order of service. We give these gifts freely, committed to our mission to care, create beloved community, awaken hearts and minds, resist injustice, and act with compassion, embrace life and care for the earth. To this work, we dedicate our offerings. High resolve. In good times or tempest, I may not forget that to which my life is committed, to keep fresh before me the moments of my high resolve. New Year's resolutions are an interesting practice I have rejected for many years, but this year I have a few. I don't know why being on time has become so important to me, but I have been saying this to people when I'm late. I'm getting on my own nerves. So I am resolving to be on time. I'm resolving, and this sounds like I'm 12, but I'm just going to lay it out there and be a little vulnerable. I'm resolving to take better care of my teeth, of all things. Like, I do not love the dentist, so I'm going to get a new dentist that I like better. And you know, tooth health is body health, blah, blah, blah. Self-care, right? I've resolved to wear a collar in public when representing this congregation and to be more out as a minister. I've talked about that before. I've resolved, no matter how strange it appeared today, to be a little more prepared. And even though I am prepared, the things all got scattered in the wind like the story. I still am looking for the first part of my script. Thank goodness I've caught up to where we are. Howard Thurman, according to Boston University, just look this guy up. I mean, he's so amazing to me, and I just keep coming back to him. His calling was not during the civil rights movement to be on the front line. His calling was to minister to the people of the movement. So he's in the background doing spiritual care. And Boston University has this to say about the power of nonviolent direct action and what Howard Thurman played in that. As Howard Thurman's profile grew in America and his wife, Sue Bailey Thurman, were asked to lead the Negro delegation to Southeast Asia. In 1935, it was on the trip that he met Gandhi. In discussions with the Indian emancipator, they explored the power of nonviolent, direct action as a mechanism for social change. By the time the civil rights movement took place in the United States, Thurman was nationally recognized as a human rights advocate, though he did not take marching and mobilizing to the streets. He was a mentor. Listen to this list of names. He was Jesse Jackson, Marion Wright Elderman, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s mentor. He went to Holman College with Dr. King Sr. He is the person who taught MLK about nonviolent action. He gave him the news about the amazing work in India and Gandhi. And so it's another place when we talk about justice, we get overly focused on the frontline folks. There are all these people involved in making justice possible, all these resolutions. And Howard Thurman led a very spiritual life. He knew that the Spirit nurtured the movement and it was important to him. And he read the 139th Psalm every day. I'm not going to read that today. It doesn't really have to do with what we're talking about, but the fact that that's a pretty good resolution, to read the same thing every day. He actually wrote a poem about every line in that psalm. Now, you may think that I've caught on to this because I have been reading his poem, The Work of Christmas, to you almost on repeat for the last 3 weeks. You've heard it over and over again, but it's worth repeating like he repeated that psalm. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, the work of Christmas begins to find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, to make music in the heart. There's that piece of spiritual nourishment again that he's teaching us. Taking time for contemplation, taking time to make resolutions. We call that covenant in this spiritual community. It's our covenant. There's one on the wall. It's the way we've agreed to be together in community. We don't have a dogma. We don't have anything handed down from a pope, although the pope died yesterday, I guess, so that was a big deal. Not Pope Francis, Pope Benedict. So just marking that time, but it's different than that. We're a people of the power of polity and self-direction, and the covenants don't have to just be with this church. We can write covenants to ourselves, and that's what resolutions are. Resolution is a funny word. A firm decision to do or not do something. The quality of being determined or resolute. Irene was pretty determined and resolute, right? The action of solving a problem or dispute or contentious matter. It's resolved, it's over. But what nobody talks about is if something needs resolved, it doesn't mean that it gets to be the same as when you started, especially if it's a mistake that needs resolved. Things are going to be different after this attention to resolution. So I have resolved to let go of some things this year too. And I want to just draw your attention to the things we're taking, using today in service. And so on this piece of paper, if I were to write the things that I'm taking with me as resolutions, the being on time, going to do my best. I pulled in the driveway at 10:30. I wasn't in the building, but I was in the driveway. So I think that we're getting there, right? I bought a new fancy electric toothbrush because I thought that would encourage me, which reminded me why I'm not very good at it, because my mouth's super ticklish, and so my husband came in to see why I was giggling alone in the bathroom hysterically. It was because I was brushing my teeth. So maybe I have a resolution to laugh a little bit and not take take self-care seriously but joyfully, right? The wearing the collar in public, that's harder than I thought it would be. I have this like, well, I'm going to this thing. Am I the minister when I get there, or am I a man? You know, so there's a little bit of discernment in that, but I feel pretty strong about that. I also have resolved, and this is the thing I'm letting go of, I'm going to let go of criticism towards me that doesn't come from love. Let's say that again. I'm going to let go of criticism towards me that doesn't come from love. Like, tell me anything I messed up lovingly. But if you're telling me just to be mean or just to hurt me or jerk me around, I'm letting go of that. I have some people, not in this community, so don't be nervous, I'm talking about you. I have some people in my bigger peripheral life that I'm going to soften my response to them when they respond to me, possibly not in love. So those are my big things. The reason I'm doing this is because I want to go bravely into the new year. And I want to talk about Irene again from the story for a minute. First of all, if I woke up and my kid wasn't in her bed, I would have had snowshoes on. I don't care how big the fever is. Second of all, there's a context to that story. That isn't like present day. Don't get me started on pushing back on duchesses and stuff like that. Like, don't even get me started on that and how they need to have the perfect dress. But what I want to talk to you about the story that I think is really interesting in resolutions is sometimes we don't think we have a choice. Sometimes we think we only have what's right there in front of us and it's urgent, and we forget to breathe in and take some space to figure out how to deal with it. So I have 6 kids, and they all were little once. Oh, they're all teenagers now, which seems much easier. I love them, but we had a really hard time resolving where the shoes were in our house most days. There were shoes everywhere, tiny shoes, big shoes, my shoes. Then we have dogs who might pick up a shoe and take it somewhere else. And then I'm a slob, so it could be under, the shoes. And we lived on the Air Force Base in Utah, and the neighborhood, very frighteningly, was next to this thing called the Tank Farm. Now that sounds great, right? And it's this big lot, if you haven't been to a military base, where they keep the fighter jet fuel, and it's kerosene. It's not super flammable. It's still a little terrifying to see big silo-type tanks of gas out your back window in the neighborhood. Also, to give you the context of where we are, we're on a military base. It is early, maybe 2005-ish, so there are some folks there who have been in combat who live on that base. And also, to context the military base, my spouse is away at a fabulous conference in San Francisco learning about video games, because that's what he did. And I'm home with 2 13-year-olds and 3 kids under 5, one being a pretty small baby. And when the lights went off that evening, it was a beautiful evening, and sparks started shooting in the air because transformers were blowing up, the people in our neighborhood didn't react very well. There were folks who had experienced the context of combat, and they jumped to conclusions about what we were going through in the current situation. So my neighbor ran into my house and said, "Get the kids out, the tank fire is going to blow up, or the tank farm is going to blow up." That is the most terrifying context, I have to tell you. And if you think I could find people's shoes in that context, including my own, you are wrong. Crocs were popular at the time, thank goodness. And so I had one Croc on. I couldn't find the other one. The kids are following me. It's dark, and every time I stop, because I'm looking for the shoe, they all run into me in a line and like bump into me. And I keep finding myself spinning in circles, trying to figure out how to get the diapers and the nebulizer and the dogs and the dog food. Like, if the thing was going to blow up, it would have been, apparently I needed dog food. I don't know. It might have been too late. It was that inappropriate decision about what I needed in an emergency time. Finally, I'm panicking about the shoe, and so I do what any logical person does. I call my husband in San Francisco and ask him if he knows where the shoe is. To which he responds, "No, but did you know you have other pairs?" Right. And then he reminds me, he said, "You probably don't need, did the police tell you to evacuate?" And I said, "No." And just that voice of reason, that moment, totally flipped the switch of how I saw the situation. Now, if Irene, that story's fraught with danger. She could have died in a snowdrift. It gets all my mom blood pumping, gets me worried. I do want to tell you that the culprit on the Air Force Base, I feel like it's only right to honor that culprit, which was a squirrel that had gotten into a transformer and set off the series of explosions. It was not a threat on any of our lives. We did live without electric for 3 days, but it was beautiful weather in Utah, and it was fine, and I got a new shoe organizer like the next day and an emergency kit for the car. It's interesting when we're alone and we think that we only have specific choices because of our context. What I'm asking us to do as we take these make resolutions is broaden the context. Take our time, think about what's around you. Think about, and here's where we get into trouble with resolutions. What's realistic? What can we follow through with? I also want to say, if you are a person with an addiction issue, thinking of making a resolution, don't do that alone. There are all kinds of folks out there to support you. And if you're making any kind of resolution that is changing your life, I would say the same thing. Don't do it alone. I'm talking about brushing my teeth and being places on time. I'm talking about the little things that make our lives easier. If you're making a big decision, first of all, New Year's might not be the right time. Second of all, take good care of yourself. Notice who's around you. Notice who's there. Notice who's tired of helping you. That's interesting too. I have a friend who came to see me, and we'd had about a year off from each other. We've had a lot of drama, both of us, with each other and not getting along, and boy, we needed a break. But it was good to have her around me again. But being resolved to take space to take care of yourself is important. Being resolved to be brave and safe is important. And with that said, I want to work on a little ritual with all of you. On this, and I even wrote it on the order of service upside down and backwards on the back so that we all know what's going on. So when we think about Howard Thurman, he has this really great way of helping us distill what's going on in our life. And he says there are 2 questions that we have to ask ourselves. First, is this, where am I going? And second, who will go with me? If you ever get these questions in the wrong order, you're in trouble. And I think that's really interesting. Where am I going and who will go with me? That's going places not alone. So we're going to take some time, and I'm going to invite Steve to play us some music and reflect first, what are you letting go of from the past year? And I want you to write that on the small piece of paper that will burn later. There are hymnals. You can use that if you need a pen. There's some in the back. On the origami paper that has 2 sides, I want you to write what you're bringing with you in the new year on one side. And on the other side, what are realistic resolutions? 3 or less. I'm feeling in the weeds. I'd like to have 10, but I think 3 is a good number of resolutions. So we're going to take some time and reflect on the paper while Steve plays, and then we're going to begin our ritual after that. I like the ending of that song. It gave us a little road into the next space. Before we get started on our ritual, I want to say that there is fire involved, and I want to point out the exits in the building. We have an exit here and an exit at the back. There is a fire extinguisher right here. And it occurs to me that it is New Year's, and it's a good time to check and make sure all those things happen, whether you're here or at home. So as much as I would love to start a big fire in our sanctuary this morning, we're going to try something different that I think they call a fire drill. So, unlike the situation in the story I told you where we're not prepared for where we're going and we only have on one shoe, I'm going to tell you exactly what you need and how to process out of the building so we can burn some stuff. You need both shoes on, hopefully. You will need an order of service, and you will need your flash paper. And what we're going to do is I invite, because it is a fire drill and we're practicing, so like this section goes out that door and walks towards the front. There's a gazebo out there. We're going to meet by the gazebo. And then this section stands up. Look who's next to you before you leave. Because the first thing we're going to do when we get in the parking lot is check and see if that person's there with us. So in the spirit of the new year and trying new things, welcome to the UUCC fire drill. Please rise quietly in body or spirit and process out of the building. We are coming back in to sing and finish. So it's not over yet. You can do it in spirit. Would you like me to take yours and burn it? Oh, in body or spirit. If you're at home, I invite you to check for fire safety in your house. If you've written things down to let go, take them outside and burn them. We'll be right back. Oh, I think, yeah. Oh, Happy New Year. Great. You go get that wreath for me because we want a bigger fire. The wreath. learn about lighters today. Thank you all. I hope you did something meaningful if you were at home. We were going to do a reading outside, and when we got out there, I forgot. But I thought it would be great if we did it together inside. So it's on the front of the order of service, both home and here. If you all quarterly read the first verse, I'll read the second. You read the third. We'll go down the line. So I'll get us started. The wordless mountains bravely still, the ground below us firm and free, the gentle quilt of field and hill shall grant us all. Let's all read the whole thing together. With breathless wild trees and the gasp of currents on the wing, our hearts soar high upon the breeze of songs the spirit longs to sing. The crimson flame of summer sun, the glow of hearth on winter's eve, refining fire shines through the one whose passions lead us to believe. The slow and gracious open deep, and raindrops gathering one by one, feed well springs in our soul to keep, for times when tears like rivers run. The earth and water, fire and air, the elements of wondrous grace, the glory of creation rare, encircles us in its embrace. Thank you for sharing that ritual with me. It's particularly special. It was the first thing I ever did as a lay leader, was a fire ceremony on New Year's. It's when the minister's usually looking for someone to cover for them, and I was an eager, new in seminary. I was like, sure, I'll do it. And the Reverend Sunshine Wolf said, okay, but don't set the church on fire. So thank you for appeasing me, and thank you for letting us check off the list. We had a fire drill this year. We're going to do one downstairs later. I appreciate that, and I appreciate being safe together. I think that's part of resolution 2, is taking good care of yourself and others and who is next to you. I invite us now to rise in body and or spirit and join in our closing song in the Teal hymnal, number 1008, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place. Please be seated. Thank you. And I'd like to invite Andy up to extinguish our chalice and invite all of you to join me in the chalice extinguishing words. We extinguish this flame, but keep the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with all the world. So, one more quote from Howard Thurman to take us on our way today. And this might sound familiar. It might sound like it inspired a Kennedy, perhaps, to say something. So keep your ear open for that. Don't ask what the world needs. Ask what makes you come alive and go do it. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. So take that with you and your resolutions. Also, take with you a reminder that you are not alone. If you're online and would like to come and burn flash paper this week, email me. I have plenty left over. If you're not online and would like to burn more flash paper this week, email me. I have plenty left over. I was thinking, gosh, that's kind of fun to have in your office if someone's having a hard time. Let's just say goodbye. Maybe just let it go. And let it go with high resolve. Let it go with strength that you're enough. And don't forget the importance of taking care of your spirit as you go out into the world. May it be so, and blessed be. And now I'm going to turn this over to our president. Oh, I turned it off. I'm sorry.
Handing me a dead mic. Well, good morning, everybody. Happy New Year. My name is Andy. My pronouns are he and they. I am your board president for at least a few more months. And really, we're just at the announcements portion of our service. So if anybody has some announcements, please come up and give them. We don't have Judith to do our eco moment of the day. I will say we are planning on doing a bylaws info session next Sunday, if that's still happening. I see Dady and Charlotte making eyes. Okay, this has been long. We've been waiting for a long time to have these sessions. Our bylaws are changing. As a church, we have rules called bylaws that we follow for our committees and the board and everything. And there's been a group working really hard on these bylaws. And Talia and Charlotte and Dady will be explaining those changes to us next Sunday after church. They're nervously shifting in their seats. And this will be a chance for us all to ask questions, learn more about the bylaws, and this is all leading up to a congregational meeting in the spring where we'll vote on the new bylaws. So please stay after church next Sunday. We're, I think, going to send them out in the newsletter. Is that what the plan is?
Yes. Well, we're sending
Before
out a
the
special
newsletter.
email tomorrow or Tuesday with the bylaws and the schedule for the week because we don't have our things are easier when Farron is here, the office admin. The orders of service are right side up, and we know what's going on. So we're going to actually send a special email out early. If you're not on our email list, let us know. I have to say that the democratic process is part of our faith tradition, so these bylaws are pretty important to us. It's really represents some hard work and some moving forward of the congregation.
Yeah, I think there's a question.
Is it going to be streamed?
Is the bylaws conversation going to be streamed? It's going to happen more than once. And if you need a one-on-one or you need another time, we could try to talk about streaming it. Thank you for bringing that up, and thank you, because that includes people who can't be here. Anything else?
That's all I had. Are there any other announcements or questions?
It's sort of related to the bylaws stuff, but the current board guy for the nominating committee. It's also the nominating committee / leadership search things. So we look for folks that are willing to take part in the church to serve on that. And so we've got a few people with us now, but it would probably be better if we could have maybe 2 more folks that would be interested in doing it. We basically try to meet about once a month. So far it's been on Zoom, but As the weather changes and things get better, it may be over here. But come up and speak to us. The members of the nominating committee are. Stand up and say hello.
Sadie's the member of every committee. Oh, all right. Yeah, Lucy.
That's right. And Roger Davis, who's not here today, is still a member, and myself.
And just to clarify, this is the committee who's looking for leaders. So, like, this is a really great place to get started, to get to know people, and they surely
Yes.
could use your help. It is right now on Zoom, so it's not a huge in-person commitment, but it does mean if they had more people, they could have people represented at more events, and it would be helpful for finding the leaders in the church. Would that be accurate?
It used to be that, you know, when we were all in one place, and sometimes we would have, you know, pictures of folks, and we'd say, oh, who can we get? Who might be somebody that would be interested? And look at that picture and go, oh, yeah, somebody knows them, or I know them, or you know them. And so those things help and say, yes, they would probably be a good candidate for that. You know, let's talk to them and see if it's not a high pressure thing, except for a certain part of the year when they have that June thing and we have to get up a few people to say, yes, these people will serve. Otherwise, it's just good for getting to know people and developing the leadership in this church.
Okay, and I think this is it because we need to go home sometime. Please adopt a poinsettia. Wouldn't it be awesome if somehow 10 of us took them home and they were still alive next year? I'm not holding my breath, but if it wasn't me just collectively killing all of them, I would really appreciate it. So they're all over the place. Please grab a poinsettia, and please join us for refreshments after the service. Our service has ended. May your service to the world begin.